do a 100% waterfall to investors once they get their principal and their 18% pref back, and then we profit on all the remaining. So they're paid out first. On these land development deals, typically we're in and out in 12 months or less. Like on this particular deal that we did, we only raised the money for the purchase. And so we were able to sit on that for a while. It was only the purchase price. And so now we've got the next round of funding, which is to do the actual development. And so those investors will get paid out accordingly for that.
Welcome to the Cashflow Fight Club podcast. In the Champions Corner edition, I'm Mike Deaton, and together with Lydia, my co-host in life, business, and this podcast, we're taking you into the training room, deep in the dojo, sharing the secrets of what it takes to forge a champion. We're digging deep into mindset mastery, high-performance habits, best-in-class behaviors, and bringing you the tips and techniques that maximize human potential, brought to you from some of the best in the business.
So grab your buds and your seat. Hit subscribe and get ready to up your game. Let's do the show.
Let's do it. Welcome to this In the Champions Corner episode of the Cashflow Fight Club podcast. In today's episode, we're speaking with Brandon Cobb. Brandon's based in Nashville and began his career as a medical device sales rep. After quick success in his sales career, his boss pulled the rug out from under him in a layoff. Finding himself out of work, Brandon decided to go out on his own. Starting a couple of different businesses and giving himself a 6-month window to make one of them work, he settled on real estate, specifically the development of new homes for first-time homebuyers and build-to-rent communities. Today, Brandon's the owner and partner of HBG Capital, a vertically integrated real estate firm providing investors with superior risk-adjusted returns and downside principal protection backed by real assets in the residential single-family construction sector in Nashville. He manages over $22 million of new development projects, and his firm aims to deliver investor returns of around 18% while making a huge impact to the greater Nashville community. Come join us as we explore real estate, land development, and how to use adversity to forge a champion's mindset. Brandon Cobb, it's great to have you on the show again. Happy to talk to you about land and wherever else the conversation goes. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm excited. We're not in the ring this time, though I see it in your background. It was fun being a part of the little fight club last night. It was a lot of fun going head to head against, I think his name was Andrew. So very cool concept. I don't have my gloves on this time.
No gloves needed today, but
You're a champion.
That was a fun matchup, and yep, coming off of a championship bout. So yeah, we're excited to dig deeper in. And I would say, let's just, for anybody that maybe didn't catch the last episode, catch us up on kind of where you came from. So where you live, early work life, and how you got into what you're doing now.
Yeah, so today we primarily focus on first-time homebuyer, single-family home communities. And so we'll go in, work with the cities. We invent these communities for 2 models, build to sell and build to rent. But once upon a time, I was in medical device sales. So 7-8 years ago, had you told me we'd be inventing these beautiful communities and working with these municipalities, I looked at you like you had 8 heads, and probably something a little bit different. I don't have this story where I had this eager desire to get into entrepreneurship and called to real estate. I didn't work in a corporate job that I hated and was just sick of it. I actually love what I did. I did sports medicine, so I primarily focused on selling to orthopedic surgeons who operated on the shoulders and the knees. So if you had an ACL reconstruction as an athlete, if you tore it, or you had a labral tear, or maybe you're just older and you had a rotator cuff tear and you needed someone to come in and fix you up, you'd go to a doctor that would do that repair. And chances are, if you were in my hospitals, you were using my product. So I thought I was the coolest kid on the block. I got to wear scrubs every single day, young kid in his 20s, rubbing shoulders with orthopedic surgeons, training hospital staff on how to use the product. I loved what I did. This is what I wanted to do. It took me 2 years to break into medical device sales after getting my first career job, and I thought that I had made it. And I'll never forget, it was one Friday afternoon. one of those in June. I think it was June 17th. And my boss says, hey, I want to meet with you. Let's meet. I was having a great day, having a power equipment trial. So drills and saws were something else that I sold. Trial went fantastic. Surgeon loved the stuff. Hospital loved the stuff they had to buy. So I go into this meeting excited to give my boss the good news. It was one of those days where like spring or summer was like knocking on the door. It was really sunny. You wanted to go outside and like go on a run or just walk in the park. And I sit down to give my boss the good news, and he fires me.
Just like that.
Just like that. And I remember feeling shocked.
Yeah.
Like my whole world, my dream, everything just turned right upside down. I remember being confused. I was like, well, I just got this Rookie of the Year Sales Award. All I do is work. I follow up on everything. I put the hours and everything. I'm like, what happened here? And so, at the end of the day, a company has to do whatever's best for the company. And, for that reason, whatever reason, it let me go. But that taught me a life lesson that I carried with me through the rest of my life. And that was that nobody was going to look out for my financial well-being but me. And so that set me on this course of investing and, creating an active income with real estate. And that eventually led me to wanting to help others, a lot of business owners, help them break free of their business or, their job that they've got and create more passive income from real estate. And so that's how the ball started and got rolling.
Yeah. We've both been sucker punched like that as well. It started our real estate journey, just getting the pink slip. And you're in and or around the Nashville area, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. Nashville, Tennessee is our market.
And did you grow up there?
No, so I've been here for, 10 years. I think I came here in February of 2014. I actually grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, suburb called Collierville, Tennessee.
Okay.
Fantastic area. Was very blessed to grow up with two amazing parents. My dad was in computer engineering. He worked from home. My mom was a Catholic school teacher. So, again, I don't have this sob story. I grew up in a very stable family environment with a mom who just was super supportive of everything. So I grew up in a very, very good environment. I was very blessed.
Yeah, that's great. Did you go to school, university in Tennessee?
Yeah, I went to the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. I was, hey, whoever's going to give me the best deal. I had the Hope Scholarship. Luckily, I squeezed by and made a pretty good GPA in high school where I got some help in college. And it was only 6 hours away, so far enough from home to be away where I felt like I had my own autonomy and didn't have to rely on my parents, but short enough where I could come home and still keep in touch with family and keep that connection going. Made great for seasonal football games where everybody would come up and my parents would crash at my place and we'd go and tailgate and have a ton of fun and make a whole lot of friends.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Going back a little bit of what you said, that you had a wake-up call and you were shocked. We realized a few years back that job security is really an illusion. And we needed to do something. We wanted to do something. And to your point, not everybody hates their jobs. We had a different story. We were displeased with our jobs. But even if you love or hate or you're displeased with your current job, the reality is that job security really is an illusion. And I would love to hear more about how was your transition from that point to what you're doing today. What sparked the interest to start to develop construction, and how was that transition for you?
Yeah, so it was funny. When I got fired, I had done a few things right. One is I had saved and invested, so I had quite a few investments. I didn't have any bad debt. I paid cash for all my cars. My monthly rent was probably 1/10 or 1/15 of what I made. So, but I literally was, I think, paying $700 a month in rent. Like, I didn't go and stay in the downtown Nashville area like a lot of the young people could. I was literally in like some old Spanish bungalow area with a lot of old people. Quite frankly, there was no one my age because I was just obsessed about saving money and investing. And I liked money. I didn't like nice things. So that's kind of how everything started. When I got fired, I was like, well, I don't have to go get another job. Let's give this whole entrepreneur thing a start. And so I was like, all right, here we go. I don't know what I'm doing. I'll give myself a 6-month ultimatum. If I don't make any money, then I'll just go get another medical job selling something. So I wanted to be the next Tony Robbins. So I started a life coaching business. I thought it would be cool to help other people break into medical device sales. So I started an online course. I really wanted to inspire and change lives. So I started a motivational blog. And then I also started doing this thing called real estate. I started going to a lot of meetups. I was looking for a mentor, right? You go on Bigger Pockets and you read all the blogs, you read all the books. I was a big Tony Robbins fan. He's always about, proximity is power, get a coach, get a mentor. I was like, I don't want to pay for a coach. I just want to partner with somebody. Ended up meeting who is to this day business partner at one of the meetups. He had a portfolio out in Colorado Springs. He was trying to get something up and running here because his wife was going to school here for dentistry school. And we just hit it off. And I called him back, I think a few days later, and said, what does it look like the next step? What do you want to do? And so he taught me this concept of driving for dollars, right? For single family homes. So over the next 5 weeks, I spent about 5 hours per day in a car going around and putting addresses in an app. And I was looking for your homes that had high grass, looked like the house needed some TLC, roof falling in. And long story short, built up a list of about 5,500 homes that, he paid for, and we started mailing. And I would go and I'd put these We Buy Houses signs up on all the telephone poles. I was getting calls from the police in the city saying, take them down. And I was like, oh, I'm freaking out. I'm going to go to jail. What am I going to do? Ended up getting our first real estate deal about an hour and 20 minutes from where I lived. Sold all my 401k accounts, all my retirement accounts, everything. Bought that house cash and ended up GCing that myself. Picked all the contractors off Craigslist, everything you could imagine, and still made it successful. Took that money and started investing it in the business because that money hit before my 6-month ultimatum ended. And I said, well, I made money myself. I guess I got to keep going. And from there, I would describe the next 2 years like that scene off Batman where the Joker slides down the mafia's big pile of money and then lights it on fire. That's what we were doing with marketing dollars. We were making hundreds of thousands of dollars and just dumping it back into the business. Lots of marketing, masterminds, coaching, mentorship. And so we built that up to doing about 30, 40 flips a year. And then coincidentally, we had a time where we pivoted into new construction where we had a rehab, full gut rehab down to studs right next to a burned down home that we bought. And we ended up rebuilding that home faster than the house that we did the full gut rehab on. And we made 3 times as much money. And we said, what are we doing flipping houses now? We need to be in new construction. And so we started going around chasing all these onesie twosie new construction projects, scaled that up to doing probably 25, 30 a year, ran out of all of our own money and said, holy crap, I need to figure this out, right? Because it can suck, real estate can really suck up all of your money. And at the time I had some private investors. And so that's how HBG Capital was born. Our brand that works with investors to help them create passive income to live life on their own terms. Well, at the time, we were like, we are so spread out. Imagine if we just built 30 homes in one spot. Wow. Imagine what terms we could get with our vendors. Imagine how much more operationally efficient we could be. Holy cow, wouldn't this be awesome? So we started going around to the local municipalities to work with them as opposed to against them to identify the parcels of land that were not the highest and best use that we could help create and turn into the city's vision. And they loved that because most developers will show up and try to shove something down their throat. We went in, pulled up a chair on the same side as the table as they were on and said, hey, let's work together. What are the pain points? What do you guys want to create here? What are the citizens complaining about? Let's help you make this a reality. And then we reverse engineered and went after those areas that they wanted to see development. In other words, you just go bring a map and say, circle the areas that you want density in, and I'll go and I'll help you create that density. So we were about to go vertical on 36 townhomes when we got a knock on the door from a national builder who said, hey, we really like your development. We see all the roads and everything going in. We want to buy it. And we said, well, it's not for sale. Sorry. We already told investors we're going to go vertical on it. And that's the plan. We're not going to deviate from that. And they said, well, we'll offer you this for it. And we said, it's for sale. You can buy it. And that's how we got into doing, land development specifically, without going vertical. So Today, we've got, 3 different exit strategies, and I'm trying to get a fourth to pencil. When we go out and we rezone and entitle land, we force appreciate the value of that land. Very similar to, multifamily, how you force appreciate it through renovating it and executing on the pro forma. But we do all that forced appreciation beforehand. We force appreciate it by taking it through that rezone process, putting 100 homes, 150, 200 homes on that piece of land, and then we will close on it, or we can either sell it to another developer, exit strategy number 1. We can syndicate it with investors, develop it, and sell the finished pads to a builder or some other, multifamily or whoever. That's exit strategy number 2. Or we can take it all the way through and build and sell the homes ourselves. Exit strategy number 3. A fourth exit strategy we were really working on before rates went up was build to rent, which is, hey, we want to build it and hold it ourselves. And so that's how things have just kind of morphed over time into what we're doing today.
Yeah, great story. There's so many paths that I am chomping to go down. But I love, just first of all, the point of view. We did a very similar thing when we were let go. We set ourselves a boundary. We said, okay, we gave ourselves 12 months and some seed money and said, let's explore this business opportunity and see where it goes. And we had an exit strategy, a plan B, that said, if it's not bearing fruit, we go get other jobs. So yeah, I really appreciate the path you went down there to say, hey, I'm going to explore some dreams, some interests, some pursuits, and give myself a bit of time. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then okay, I'll just go back into a job that I actually liked to begin with. And so, yeah, I love that. It's a low risk situation. I typically tell people, I don't recommend burning the boats. Like, I don't recommend quitting or losing your job before you pivot into something else. But sometimes it works. And my personality is such that I'm kind of all in when I'm all in. And it's hard for me to run things in parallel and to have a full-time job and then also start working something on the side. I just give too much attention to my primary focus typically. So I don't know if we would have been successful if I would have done the thing. But I think for most people, it's a safer course of action to try to build something up in parallel. But I do appreciate that
100%. I'm the same way. Like, if you ask me, Brandon, what advice would you give? That's the advice I would give, honestly, is like, hey, look, build it up in your spare time. Don't take the risk. Make sure that you've got some kind of traction before you do it. But for me, that would have never worked for me. Had I not gotten fired, I would not have been. I'm just not a natural entrepreneur, quite frankly. I'm not.
Yeah, likewise.
With it, I'm not that guy. I needed to burn the boats, or less, I needed somebody else to burn the boats for me.
Yeah, and have some sense of urgency to be out there doing what you're doing instead of, because it is very possible to go to meetups, to drive for dollars, to do some analysis on the side, right? You have evenings, you have weekends, some down days and things like that. It's really, really quite easy for a lot of people to do that. But yeah, definitely have to fit what's with your personality. I'm really curious about, you mentioned partnering with the city and getting in touch with the city council. What was that process like? Did you guys already have an in into the city, or did you find your way in? And kind of how did that work, as well as how that partnered with your strategy of taking the approach? Because I was curious about. My dad was a general contractor back in the back in the 80s in Arlington, Texas, when Arlington was booming. And at some point in time, there was the S&L crisis. Banks tightened up. They weren't lending as much. But the big box home builders came in and just were cookie cuttering all the neighborhoods, right? And so my dad, he was more of a custom home builder, and he didn't really enjoy cost cutting and using cheap materials and building all of this kind of stuff. And so he backed out. But point being, there can be intense competition from those companies. And so I don't know if that was a conscious strategy on y'all's part to try to do something a little different that might get you an in with the city, but I'm very interested in how that works, just from somebody that might be interested to go about this approach. Like, how do you, like I said?
Yeah, there's some nuances here for sure. So at the time, we recognize that with our investment thesis, which is to go after first-time homebuyer housing, right? We kind of call it affordable housing, but not in the sense that it's Section 8 or government housing. We're talking about the affordable housing crisis, right? There's just not enough homes for those first-time homebuyers. You've got 33% of the home buying population right now, millennials looking for their first home, less than 10% of homes being built cater to that price point. So there's a huge supply and demand imbalance here. And it has the opportunity to do build to rent because of the affordability of the product. So you've got multiple exit strategies here. Makes it very, very appealing. That's why you hear all these hedge funds, BlackRock and somebody, who's been jumping into the sector. Anywho, so it's much different when you're going after the suburbs. For us, that's where the affordability was. That's where everybody was going. This is after COVID. People were working from home. All of the demand pushed to the suburbs. No longer did these people have to, drive downtown. So you're seeing a lot more demand in these, 30, 45-minute commutes to downtown, right? These towns, these suburbs. And so those are much easier to build relationships with and get to see people than if you were to just go to downtown Nashville. You can still meet with the planning department or members of the planning department downtown Nashville, but they more or less have a formula that they have to abide by. If you're in a bigger city and you're going down there, you're going to have more trouble getting to the decision makers because it's this big bureaucratic nightmare, and you're not going to have a whole lot of sway. You can go down there and it's still a good idea to talk to them, but they've got a book and they're buying it. Whereas in these more individual local communities, they have a lot more say-so on what gets approved and what doesn't. And you can walk in and you can talk to them. I mean, it's that easy. You're going to find there's two types. There's developer friendly and there's not. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to clarify, when you're talking about these smaller municipalities, I guess, is that actually so suburbs, like you're not in the Nashville city zone, you're maybe in a smaller and okay, maybe they get pulled into Nashville at some point as it grows, but it sounds like you're going into smaller communities that have a much smaller and more open government structure. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, even Nashville itself, there's cities that fall within, that limit that still have kind of a lot of say so that goes in the community. Uh-huh. But it's mostly zip codes that touch the city center. That's who we're going after. You can walk in and you can meet with people. You can set an appointment. You can actually talk to somebody. It's not like a big old bureaucratic nightmare. That's who we're dealing with.
Yep. Okay. Makes sense. Sorry. Go ahead.
So there's two types of communities you'll find: developer friendly and non-developer friendly. There's some that just want to shut the door and say no more, get out of here, and there's some that are like, yes, we need the tax revenue, things need to be improved. So we try to do a really good job of going after the developer friendly ones specifically. And if you're going and you're in a market that's not developer friendly, don't worry, they still have to abide by what the rules are. And I think a lot of new developers don't realize this. A lot of times the city, if they're not developer friendly, they'll tell you certain things. Oh, no, this won't work here. No, you can't do that. No, baloney. Yes, you can. And so it's very important that you understand that and you can be able to push back when the time calls. So, again, if something's already zoned a certain way, they're not going to change that zoning. And you have full authority to go through and pull that piece of land through and get it entitled and put however many pieces of homes or commercial or whatever it's zoned for. So just know that if you're going after a non developer friendly municipality, you can do that. But for the developer friendly ones, it's so much easier to get quick decisions that are made, to be able to go through and get immediate feedback and meet with people that generally want to improve the community and make things happen.
And when you go into something like that, do they typically require that so you're coming in with a plan? Do you have to have that plan funded and be able to show hey, we have a plan not only, but we also are able to execute on this plan from day one whenever you get going? Or is that vary from municipality to municipality, or what's that process?
They don't care. They're happy to meet with you. Again, you're talking to individuals whose responsibility it is to take care of the city and give the citizens what it wants, right? The citizens elect these planning commission members to go and say, hey, look, we're going to put you in charge of making the decisions for what happens in the community and how the community grows. So you can go meet with them and Just introduce yourself, explain what you're doing, why you're here, what you want to do, and start asking the questions like, "Hey, what's the vision for the community here? What is lacking? What are the local community members? What are they complaining about? Tell us about the relationship, with your developers. Who's in town. Tell us about the past several developments that have been really successful. What's gone over well, with the community, and basically just do a needs assessment of the sales process. That's it. And you'll be surprised by how many opportunities come from this. We've got planning commission people that bring us deals or refer people to us because, again, they've been elected here. You're not going to get elected unless you've got grassroots in that area. So they know the people with the land. They know the people that have the stuff that you want to go after as a developer. And so it can open a lot of doors if you do it right, especially if you take the time and you get a few communities underneath your belt and you show them that you're actually delivering on what you say. Then you can actually bring something that maybe doesn't quite align with what they want, but it does align with what you want, and they're willing to work with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. So, okay, you sit down, you do a little needs assessment. They point out needs, areas of growth, things like that. What would be the next step in that process? If assuming it's maybe a gentleman's agreement or at least some directional pursuits, I would think you'd have to go, okay, let's go figure out how to get a hold of this land and
yeah. So once you've identified the areas and you've got buy-in and it's kind of worth spending your time on it, the next step is to go and identify those parcels. So they've circled the areas, you've kind of identified it, you understand what that plan is for the community. We use Landglide. We reach out to the local brokers. We ask the planning commission who we need to get in touch with. There's a lot of sources you can go to. Like, hey, who is the civil engineer that you guys recommend that's already doing development for a lot of other developers in the area? Those engineers, they've got access to deals. I promise. They know who's who in the zoo. Great person to reach out to because you're going to be hiring them as well. And what I like to do on Landglide is we go out and it's like a big old puzzle. So if you pull up Landglide, nowadays, you've got tech at your fingers, and it's amazing. It's all of these puzzle pieces that fit together, right? And some of these puzzle pieces are really, really small. They're all kind of like together in one little area. That's a community. You're like, oh, wow, look at all these little bitty plots of land that have been put on this. And then right next to it, you'll see, oh, my gosh, there's this big piece of land right here. What is this? Those are the ones that you want. Typically, we're going after parcels of land that are at least 7, 8, 9, 10 plus acres that are around things. They're not out in the middle of like nowhere. So, within, 8 minutes of this city's core, hopefully within 10, 15 minutes of an interstate, it's got to be around something. There's got to be something happening, a coffee shop. There's got to be a grocery store, some kind of progress, or at least in the path of progress. And then from there, it's just reaching out to the owners, however you want to do that. We go and door knock sometimes. I mean, we're very laser focused. Whereas when we were flipping houses, we were, sending out 40, 50,000 mailers a month, right? Spray and pray, wait for the phones to ring. We might talk to 20, 30 people a year. That's it. More. Very laser focused because it becomes such a compelling value proposition. When I can go to somebody who's, say I'm flipping houses and I'm going after the same thing, and I come out with my cash hammer, right? Hey, cash offer. I'll give you, 65% of the home's value. I'll move all your stuff out. I'll do all these things for you. Versus a developer who can come in and go, hey, your home's worth 300 grand. If I can pay you 800,000 for it, would you be interested in seeing how that would work? And of course, they're going to be like, well, yeah, how are you going to do that? And then you walk them through the process because you're going to take that $300,000 piece of land, you're going to turn it into a $2 million piece of land, right? So it makes sense for you. It makes sense for them. And you just explain that process that, hey, I'm going to put this under contract contingent on this outcome. And if they say, well, how do you know you're going to get that outcome? Be like, look, I've already pre-vetted it with the city. If you want to come with me after we put this under contract, I'm more than happy to walk you in and we can pitch the concept to the city and we'll see if they approve it. So that's step number 2, is to get it under contract with a specific outcome. And you can tell that seller, hey, look, let's go to the city together here and I'll show you this is real. After you've got the verbal from the city, you got a contract, you got a verbal in the city. Now it's time to start spending money on the civil engineering. So you don't want to spend any money on the civil engineering and bring them fully on board until you've got some buy-in from the city. Typically, that's spending a few $1,000s with that civil engineer once you get it under contract, or maybe right before you get it under contract, to show the seller what you're going to do. And you take that concept plan, this is literally just a drawing with homes on it, to the city and say, hey, will you approve this thing? Is this aligned? And when they give you a verbal and say yes, now it's time to start spending the money on the civil.
Yeah, it makes sense. And certainly, I'm sure it opens people's eyes when you can explain the being able to pay somebody well over their market value. Yeah, that's great. I love all that. And then, the beauty of the model, as you explained earlier, is the layering of options, right? You call them exit strategies. There's just, because you're doing this vertical development with all the processes, you can do them all, or you can hand them off. If D.R. Horton or somebody comes and says, man, we love what you've done so far, we have a vision as well, we're willing to pay you, and you can exit without the risk and get your money out early, and maybe even make more than you would have had you gone the other way. But yeah, it's great. Was your partner, was he doing this in other markets, or did you guys both grow into this together? Just it sounds a little happenstance the way you were explaining it earlier. That just
yeah, we both grew into it together. He was doing a lot of house flipping and Airbnbs out in Colorado Springs, so he did have a background, with real estate, contract management, project management, but not doing land development. But my partner is this amazing dude that he's one of a kind. There's nobody like him in the world. He, just to give you an idea, he's just a problem solver. When we were doing this land development thing, one was, hire the right civil engineer and hire the right, contractors to do it, right? That's a big part of what you do as a developer, because you have to trust the civil. There's no way you're going to go get a civil engineering degree and understand a lot of these things. You got to make sure that you hire and trust the right people. But he went and bought all of the land development books that I can't remember. I think it was MIT offers. So if you were a student at MIT and you wanted to go major in real estate development, you know how you go and you buy the textbooks that are this thick, and there's set them on the day, they're this high. He literally bought all of them and read them in 2 months. That's just the kind of guy. He's like, all right, we have a problem here. We need to figure out how to solve this problem. I mean, he could recite textbook information about land development, and I was just blown away by this. And he's like, yeah, we need to mitigate the risk. We haven't done this. We can hire the right people, but we need to familiarize ourselves with it. So he literally went and I guess got an MIT education on land development before we actually did it.
Yeah. Wow, that's brilliant.
What is your strategy for meeting the funding needs for your projects?
Yeah, so we syndicate like a lot of people with the land development stuff. It's 100% equity. So those types of deals, because your exit, there's so few buyers for it. Again, I'm talking about if you were to just buy the land with investors and try to flip it to another developer, or buy the land, develop it, and then sell it to a builder. There's not many people that are going to buy that. It's not like a consumer where if you're building a house, you get this huge pool of potential buyers. It's a lot more of a liquid market. So for that reason, we syndicate deals with investors, and we will purchase the land and do it with pretty much 100% equity. So in the event that you get an interest rate hike or something that happens, you have the ability to hang on to that piece of land. There's no bank calling your note due. We actually bought a piece of land that we got approved for 74 homes in September of 2022. Right when interest rates went up, we had 5 national builders wanting to buy these lots from us. Crazy prices. We were excited, and all of them disappeared because of what interest rates did. But because we bought that with equity from investors, there were no monthly payments. We controlled it, and we had the ability to wait on it. And literally this Friday, the due diligence from a builder ends on it that we put under contract about 43 days ago. And we will start the development for these 74 pads that we have contracted with a builder to purchase once they're finished. So structuring that way is very important. As far as what that value add pitch looks like to investors, it's, just like every other investment, it's showing them the value. Hey, we bought this piece of land for $700,000. It's worth probably 1.4, 1.5. Here's our budget to develop it. Here's a contract from a national home builder to buy it at this price. Look at all the margin here. And that's pretty much it.
And I think if I remember correctly, you mentioned you guys do an 18 pref for investors. And then what is it beyond that? What kind of split are you guys doing, if any?
So I'm just a simple guy from Tennessee, right? There's all these complex GP splits and waterfalls.
Yeah, all that crazy stuff. Yeah.
We do a 100% waterfall to investors once they get their principal and their 18% pref back, and then we profit on all the remaining. So they're paid out first. On these land development deals, typically we're in and out in 12 months or less. Like on this particular deal that we did, we only raised the money for the purchase. And so we were able to sit on that for a while. It was only the purchase price. And so now we've got the next round of funding, which is to do the actual development. And so those investors will get paid out accordingly for that.
Okay, so it's clean at each stage, let's say. So you raised money with a certain set of investors and a certain PPM with that, and then if you sell, then everybody gets paid out. And I guess if you continue on and you develop it, then investors still get paid out for that portion, and then probably you open another round for the development costs or whatever the next phase would be.
Yeah, there's different ways you can do it. Typically, what we're doing is we're acquiring the land with our holding company because we might have to move quick on it. There's certain things that we need to be able to control. Times are it's going to be kind of iffy, and so we'll acquire it. We can then assign that deal to a syndication that we have, recoup some profit kind of upfront if needed. If we're still getting it at a really good cost basis. So that syndication will then go and we'll develop it. Typically, we're telling investors hey, worst case scenario, if this builder falls out, we're going to go vertical on it. And so we explain to them hey, we're raising all the money to do the land development. And at that point, if we need to, if this builder backs out or something happens, we've got a piece of land that not only has the investor equity in it, but all of the forced depreciation from putting the roads and the infrastructure and everything else in. We've got plenty of equity to go get a debt position from a bank and start building homes and paying investors back once those homes sell at that point.
Yeah, makes sense. So in these episodes in the Champions Corner, we also like to talk a bit about mindset and behaviors and all these things. We're also big Tony Robbins fans, so we like personal development, and we're actually UPW tomorrow. We're going for Thursday through Sunday, virtual event. But yeah, we love it. So talk us through some of the things that you do to stay on top of your game. You have routines, morning, evening? Do you any kind of mindset practices or things like that?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I do. I mean, as far as routines go, I'm kind of a workout junkie. I love biohacking. I'm probably a weirdo and a little bit obsessed with it. I get up every morning. I go work out like everybody else, but I come home, I've got a cold plunge in my garage. I love cold plunging. I think that the mental clarity it gives me and the energy is just phenomenal for me to be productive throughout the day. You don't need coffee if you jump into a water that's 50 degrees, let me tell you. I've got a little walking treadmill right here that I probably spend an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours walking while I'm working, doing things like this to kind of keep the juices going. So I'm a health nut. So health is definitely the foundation on everything I use. I got a Whoop. I track my sleep. I try to get 9 hours in bed, which equates to about 8 hours sleep a night. So that kind of takes care of my foundation as far as my routines go and how I stay productive. As far as mindset goes, I think it's just exposing yourself to the right information when the time is right. For example, there's some advice that I recently heard it's awesome, right? Interest rates presented a lot of challenging times for everybody. Our land development deals did fantastic. Our houses did not. Houses took a hit. Luckily, the land and development stuff, it still produced great returns and it did great. And so while we were going through this holding period with houses and we watched construction costs go up, we watched interest rates suppress the pricing of the homes, and we watched the timelines double from building, being able to sell his homes. Like, it's very stressful. And so being able to have the right mental tools to go through those tough times is very critical. And some of the advice that, kind of helped me get through that little tranche was from Alex Ramosi. Love his stuff. And he talks about this idea of this is what hard feels like. And it's this amazing story where he's teaching his fraternity. He's like the class president or whatever in his fraternity. And all the pledges are revolting because they're sick and tired of cleaning and not being able to party and doing beeper and having to juggle school. And like at the same time, every year, like clockwork, the pledge class revolts and goes like, we want to meet with the president. This has to stop. We're all going to quit. And I love what he said because it really hits home. So he asked the pledge class, hey, who is here that thought that pledging was going to be easy? And nobody raised their hand. And he goes, all right, well, if you didn't think it was going to be easy, who here knew it was going to be hard? Everybody raised their hand. And he said, this is what hard feels like. And it was this like, oh, aha moment. Like, yeah. So look, guys, it's a really good investment. You do it for 6 months. You get 3.5 years of other people doing it for you. Just go do it. It's a good investment. Cool. It's the same thing. I think a lot of times when things get tough, we just don't realize what hard feels like. So reminding myself when those tough times are happening and asking myself, hey, did you think this was going to be easy? Well, no, I knew it was going to be easy. Well, did you think it was going to be hard? Well, yeah, of course. I knew it was going to be hard. Well, this is what hard feels like, Brandon. And I get back to work. So that was some advice that really hit home for me just recently. And I'm sure I could talk for hours about all the other stuff as well. But, hopefully that gives some value to the audience, especially if you're going through a tough time.
Yeah, it's a great perspective. And a lot of times that's all it takes is that perspective shift to be help push you through some of those hard times. But yeah, many times I laugh. I'm a runner. I have progressively over the years, I hated running in my 20s because running was associated with punishment from my high school days. Right. The coaches would always make you run. But then in my 30s, I found running again and it became fun and community and spirit. Now I just really love to get out, kind of do things. But over the years, I've explored longer and longer distances. And I laugh because I guess it was November in just this past year, 2023. You're sitting on your couch, an email pops in, hey, sign up for this event. And you think, oh man, that'd be cool. And you're sitting there next to the fireplace on the couch, thinking about, this event. And in my case, I'm running 100 miles in August, in Leadville, Colorado, which is the highest, city in the US, right? So I'll be up over 10,000 feet. Thousands of feet of vertical gain and all this stuff. But, at the moment I'm thinking, yeah, I could sign up for that. That'd be fun. And, now I'm in training for it but yeah, you don't necessarily conceive of how hard is going to be. But yes, at the same time, I wasn't thinking it was going to be easy. And I was thinking that I wanted to challenge myself. And so, yeah, I can see how that perspective can come in handy when you're like, okay, you signed up for hard. This is hard, right? Like,
this is what hard feels like.
Speaking of hard, I'm curious to know, what do you see are some risks in 2024 and moving forward in real estate arena?
Risks in 2024. Man, that's a great question. If I had the magic crystal ball, wouldn't that be nice? I think this is just my personal opinion. I think that things are going to be a little bit smoother than last year just because it's an election year. I don't think that inflation is over with. If you look at it historically, it tends to be volatile and bounce back with a vengeance. So I don't think that what everyone believes is going to happen with interest rates is going to happen. I think there's still a few curveballs that are going to happen, kind of similar to what the Fed did to us in 2022. So don't discount another kind of crazy black swan event from happening. I personally don't think that all of the things that are going to break due to the interest rate hike have broken yet. I still think that we're going to see some aftermath from that has not happened. And I don't know what that's going to be. I don't know when it's going to happen. I just don't think that you can increase interest rates that much and pump all that liquidity into the system after COVID and not have some more repercussions than what has already happened occur. It's just extremely difficult to figure out what those are. So, for those reasons, there's like 6 things we're really doing to try to mitigate risk here in 2024. One is have multiple exit strategies lined up for our deals. 2 is to be able to control the debt, right? We want to be able to have control with our investors in these particular deals. 3, we want to invest in markets and in asset classes where money is flowing into it. I think money flowing into an area and an asset class is the best chance of protection that you've got, right? Doesn't matter if there's a COVID thing coming on. If you're invested in toilet paper at the time, you're going to be fine. So go where the money's going. Being in opportunities where there's forced appreciation, that's, like multifamily is great for that. I really like land, rezoning it. Being in something where you have control over what the value is something else that I think is really good for investors. And then I'm sure there's another one that I'm forgetting on here, but those are some of the methods we're using to try to skate around the risk in 2024.
Yeah, those are great takeaways for entrepreneurship in general, right? I mean, if you're in a growth industry and or a growth market, it covers up a lot of sins of business. You can overlook or even power through bumps along the way, even big ones. I mean, that's one of the reasons we love land as well, is the margins, in the business, the way we run it are just incredibly crazy big. And so, we can afford to do a lot of things, but yeah, I would say growth, that's a outstanding strategy. Don't over lever or don't even lever if you don't have to. That's great. Financial institutions are good, and being able to control. I mean, we do a lot of owner financing, so we are the bank, and we don't care what the Fed's doing. By the way, the Fed just held interest rates steady as we're on this call. They just said they're holding the rate steady today, but they're still forecasting 0.75 point decreases throughout the year. But yeah, to your point, no one knows what's going to happen. Even Jerome Powell, so a lot of things are still under tension, as you said. I think, a lot of the liquidity as well as the rates. There's a lot of people holding on, and some things are definitely going to unwind or uncoil in a manner over the next 6 to 12 months, probably, especially a lot of these commercial assets that took on variable debt and things like that, and then that's going to cascade into banks. I think the last week or two ago, Jerome Powell was up in D.C. saying there will be bank failures in 2024. I mean, there are always bank failures because it's just a business, but I think there will be a little bit more of those, and that's going to have cascading effects, to your point. So yeah, it is good to have options and to be in control as much as you can over your investments and your assets. And I think the business model you guys have laid out is really good. What does the future hold for you guys? Is the Nashville area, as far as you can see, growing to keep you busy for the next 1, 5, 10 years, or you have other things on your plate, or are you just kind of focused in on keeping this going?
I'm sure we'll eventually expand, but man, the opportunity in Nashville is just so bright. Like what got us to doing $20 million a year in development is not what's going to get us to doing 100. So we're in a process of completely restructuring our business. We're bringing a lot more strategic partnerships because we've realized that's what's going to allow us to really grow and scale. We were vertically integrated up to this point, and we've realized that in order to scale to what we need, you either need to build this ginormous team or start bringing on strategic partnerships. So we're in the middle of basically de-vertically integrating and doing that. We want to have, over 1,000 lots under control and, building, 300 units a year, mostly to hopefully hold. And so in the past, our strategy has been very transactional, and we've been doing a lot of build to sell or develop and sell, and that creates a tax problem. And so, the way I'm structured, with our tax efficiency, I've got to invest a lot of my money into depreciable assets that I can capture some of that depreciation. But as a limited partner, I'm not getting that investing in other people's multifamily deals. But if I can bring that in under our umbrella and hold on to more assets, that's a huge part of what we need to do going forward. We want to be able to build a portfolio, and be able to sell that off to, like a bigger fund one day. Also, we have a big goal to end veteran homelessness in Middle Tennessee. We've partnered with some great organizations, Matthew 25, who's kind of like a stepping stone from homelessness to, hey, let's get you a free place to stay, a meal, a curfew, drug tests, help you get some work. And, we want to be able to get them kind of integrated back into society. So like our veterans have literally, some of them have, given the ultimate sacrifice, laying down their lives so that you and I can enjoy the freedoms that we have today. And so for the guys that, survive that and, have fallen on hard times or whatever, we want to seek to do that. And so we had a goal to like give away one of our homes that we were building when the interest rate thing happened. So we had to put that postpone, but we're still going to do that. We still want to give away one of the houses in one of our communities to a homeless vet who's proven themselves, and start funding more of that next stepping stone with great organizations like Matthew 25 to help integrate these veterans back into society and end homelessness for veterans here in Middle Tennessee.
It's a big issue and a beautiful mission. Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
Yes.
You want to take us home?
Yes, I do have a question though, for anybody that listens to this and they're desiring to join you in your venture. Do you guys accept new investors?
Yeah, we're always raising money from people who are interested. I don't think we currently have anything, but if you're someone who's interested in building a legacy, if you're trying to make an impact with loved ones and ultimately create financial freedom and retire one day, you can go to our website, hbgcapital.net. That's pronounced Harry Bob Gary Capital.net. Tons of free resources on there. There's an ebook called 100 Questions Business Owners Ask Before Investing. I wrote that ebook because I had the unfortunate conversation with somebody that lost all their money with a real estate investor out of California that they had invested with. And it became very evident on that call, the reason they lost all their money is they didn't have the right questions to ask because they were so green. Had they been armed with the right questions, they could have unlocked the answers they needed to make a more informed decision. And I'm confident that it would have prevented that. So I wrote that book for the whole goal of, if I can prevent this from happening to just one other person losing their money, then it would be worth it. So it's free. You can go on our website. You can grab it. If you want to listen to more of our content, we've got our own podcast, Recession Resistant Real Estate Radio.
Awesome.
We'll make sure to put that in the show notes. Mm-hmm. And I really believe that real wealth's foundation is in gratitude. We all like cash flow, but really, we like to end each episode with gratitude. So we want to ask you if you have a person in mind or multiple people that you want to shout out to that were really instrumental for where you are today.
Oh, yeah. My partner, Vagif Sadov. Weird name. He goes by Alex because no one can pronounce his first name and pronounce his last name. Really weird sometimes and really funny if you're in the social settings. But dude, Vagif Sadov, you've been an absolute inspiration in my life. You've taught me everything I know about business and entrepreneurship, and definitely wouldn't be the man I am today or where I am without you.
Beautiful.
Beautiful, yes.
Yeah, that's another line of questioning for another day, but finding good partners is essential to business and not very easy to do a lot of times. So you're definitely blessed and fortunate to have found a good one there. Well, we are grateful that you spent some time with us, shared some knowledge and insights, and enlightened us on kind of what you're doing, and actually, as we were talking before the show started, inspired us to look around a bit as more and explore this as an opportunity in our business. So, really appreciate you coming on, and look forward to many great things from you and HBG Capital. And we thank you for coming on.
Yes,
thanks for having me on. It was an honor and a pleasure.
You bet, Brandon. Take care.
For those of you joining us today, we hope you enjoyed this time in the Champions Corner as much as we did. Got some awesome takeaways, and most importantly, will take action to continue living your best life and maximizing your potential. Mindset is such an important aspect of life, and when coupled with action, delivers undeniably powerful results.
Please subscribe to the podcast to hear from more great guests and get the latest mindset mastery insights and cash flow matchups.
Again, thank you so much for investing your time with us, and we look forward to seeing you next time on the Cash Flow Fight Club podcast.